Welcome back to the Caregiver Minute, where every weekday family and professional caregivers gather to refine their skills, gain inspiration, and prepare to serve. I'm confident you've had a blister before at some point in life, and chances are you didn't think it was a very big deal. Most people clean the affected area and cover it and give it a few days, and it's all healed up. But a lot of people who watch the Caregiver Minute work in long-term care settings of one sort or another, and they know to watch for skin integrity issues. Because what starts as a little tiny blister can quickly mushroom into a much bigger problem, especially if the person that you're serving is a brittle, fragile diabetic. What's the difference? Why is it that a blister for most people is not that big of a deal, but for the diabetic that develops a blister on their foot, it could become life-threatening? The difference is the health of the person when the blister develops. This principle is actually true in a lot of different situations. Think about concussive injuries. A lot of people have their head rattled around in all sorts of situations. So why do some people develop severe symptoms of post-concussion syndrome and other people don't seem to have a problem with it? It has a lot to do with the condition of the brain at the time of the impact. But most people just think about the severity of the impact. How hard did you get hit? There are actually a lot of cases I've seen personally in our work here at A Mind for All Seasons where someone had a modest hit to the head and they had severe symptoms versus other people who had pretty significant hits and they didn't seem to develop the same kinds of symptoms. If a person has chronic inflammation at the time of the impact, then it doesn't take as much force to cause a lot more problems for them. The same is true in a lot of other areas. Why is it that someone can have a modestly stressful experience that just sends them off the edge of a cliff? And someone else might have the same experience, and it's mildly annoying, it's not pleasant, but it doesn't completely derail them. I think a lot of that has to do with the health of the brain at the time that the stressor appears. If someone is living with chronic inflammation and their health is poor and they're just exhausted all the time, and one more thing gets added on top, they're already close to the edge of that cliff and off they go. So what are factors that move us closer to or further away from the edge of the cliff when it comes to both mental and physical health? Well, certainly hydration plays a role. That's very controllable. And if we're chronically dehydrated, we're closer to the edge of the cliff. If we're chronically sleep deprived, we're closer to the edge of the cliff. If we chronically have low levels of oxygen at night because we have undiagnosed or untreated sleep apnea, we're closer to the edge of the cliff. If we've had modest brain injuries over time where our head was rattled around and we didn't realize that that ignited a chronic inflammatory response, we're closer to the edge of the cliff. If our nutrient levels are depleted, we're closer to the edge of the cliff. If we don't have sufficient B vitamins for our brain, you get brain shrinkage over time. That's a problem, and it moves us closer to the edge of the cliff. Chronic stress moves us closer to the edge. If we're not taking time to really recover and to give ourselves some mental white space to just unwind a little bit, we're closer to the edge of the cliff. If we're not getting regular physical activity, we're closer to the edge of the cliff. If we're eating a diet that is really high in carbohydrate and our sugars are running way too high and we're not metabolically healthy, we're closer to the edge of the cliff. So when it comes to our response to everything from pathogens to brain injuries to stressors that come up in life, one of the key things that affects our response to that is our overall health at the time of that insult. So what are you doing to back away from the edge of the cliff and prioritize your own health and well-being? And what are you doing to help the people that you serve? Make sure that they're as far away from the edge of the cliff as possible. I hope you'll take some time today to consider some of those factors and to pick one thing that you might do to back away from the edge of the cliff just a little bit. So the next time something happens, for you, maybe it'll be more like a blister than a diabetic ulcer. Thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon for another episode of the Caregiver Minute.